Hello, everyone. Today's section we're going to name covalent molecules, binary, and acids. Um, Review term would be oxyanion, which is polyatomic. Um, Usually, nonmetals bonded together one or more with oxygen with one or more oxygen atoms attached to it or bonded to it. And the new term is oxyacids. Okay, before we start, we want to you want to either copy this page, or print it out. These are the prefixes that we're going to be using. One is mono, di, tri, tetra. So go ahead and pause and copy or print. So naming, just like our names has first, middle, and last, and it's known, common knowledge that it's if a name followed by a comma and then another name, then that's our last name and the first name. Same with naming molecules. We have rules. So naming binaries, which is two nonmetals, whatever is mentioned first, the first element, you name it first, the entire element name. And then the second one, you name the root, and then give it IDE instead of INE. Now for the acids, once you have a hydrogen attached to it, it gets a hydro for binaries. Hydro, and then an ending IC, and then always gets the word acid. For example, HCl is hydrochloric, gets an IC ending, and the word acid. I'm going to have a lot of practice, so. Now, oxyacids.
Oxyacid. Any acid that contains hydrogen and an oxyanion.
Oxyanions is polyatomic, so you also want to have a list of common polyatomics handy. So first, if the name of the polyatomic has a per or hypo, then you include it in the acid. And it gets an IC, ending IC, or if the polyatomic ends in ATE, and then the acid gets OUS if the polyatomic ends in ITE. We're going to practice that as well. For example, if your polyatomic is ClO3, that's chlorate. It ends in ATE. So and you add hydrogen to it, then the acid gets IC plus the word acid. So chloric acid. So instead of chlorate, it will be chloric acid. If the polyatomic is ClO2, it has an ending of ITE, chlorite. The acid gets OUS ending plus the word acid, chlorous acid. NO3 is nitrate. You add hydrogen to it, it's nitric acid. NO2 is nitrite. You add hydrogen to it, it's nitrous acid. Many compounds, they have common names before we develop a system. So when you see the water, ammonia, those are just common names. So for example, water, appropriate name, or the following the system will be dihydrogen monoxide. Ammonia would be nitrogen trihydride, and so on. Now you can pause, of course, and take a look at this. They're summarizing all the rules here, but we're just going to dive in and practice. But you can just pause and see if you can figure that out. Name the following binaries. So we're going to start by naming binaries. I developed a kind of a steps in naming. So prefix, the cation, prefix, anion, and then an ending IDE. If it's binaries, if it's just non-metal and non-metal. So first rule is if it's one, if the first name does not have any uh, numbers next to it, then you cross out the prefix and you name it as is. So it's carbon. And then the prefix of the second, which is tetra, root of the second, which is instead of chlorine, it's chloride. Carbon tetrachloride. Now this one, the prefix of the first, which is di, the name is arsenic. Then the prefix of the second, which is tri, instead of oxygen, it's oxide. Di, arsenic, trioxide. And then this one, carbon is just one, so you don't say monocarbon, you just put carbon monoxide. Okay, another one, binary, is sulfur by itself. You cannot say mono, so you just cross out the first prefix. So it's sulfur. The prefix for 2 is dioxide. Also, nitrogen is 1, so we start with nitrogen. Fluorine, fluoride. Nitrogen trifluoride. Now we're going to start to name acids. Binaries first. So binary acids gets hydro, the root of the name, the ending IC, and then the word acid. So let's try this one. I plus hydrogen, so it's hydro iodic acid. Okay? Hydroiodic acid. This one is a polyatomic. So right here on the polyatomic chart, it's chlorate. So, and we said if it's chlorate, it gets an IC plus the word acid. So chloric acid, just chloric acid. This one is also a polyatomic, so we look for ClO2 chlorite. So it gets chlorus because it's a ITE and then the word acid. If it's ITE, it gets chlorous acid. So binary gets hydro, IC, and the word acid. Polyatomic, you follow these rules. Okay, SO4, we look for it on the polyatomic, it's right here. So sulfate, so the root, sulfuric acid. Okay, for binaries, it gets a hydro, the root, plus IC, plus the word acid. So hydrosulfuric acid. Hydrosulfuric acid. And those are the notes for today. I hope that helps. We'll see you guys next time.